gang, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Amy here with another tutorial, and I am here with my cousin Jazz, and we are going to do her very first makeover. So she's been in this makeup for a couple of hours now, so what you're going to see is what we did a few hours ago. So if you are interested in seeing how we accomplished this beautiful face, then keep watching. So starting with brows, I'm just taking a brown, it's actually an eye pencil, but it works really well. It's nice and creamy and soft, so it works really well for defining brows. I believe this is a Maybelline pencil. I'm not really sure, but I'll leave the products that I use in the description box. But I'm just going over her brows, following the natural shape of her brow, defining, and then I'm going to use some small strokes to fill in the brow. Grabbing this dual brow brush and comb from the Sephora collection, I'm just brushing in her brows to fill everything in to give a nice, clean, and seamless and natural look. Now going in with the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Concealer in shade Dark 153C. And I'm just going to further define the brows just by sculpting underneath with the concealer. And then I'm also going to fill in her eyelid with this concealer because we're going to use this as our primer. Taking a small angled brush, it's a detail brush, and I'm just going underneath the brow to make sure that everything is nice and even and clean and really define the shape of this brow because we want this to be nice and crisp. Using my damp e.l.f. beauty sponge, I'm blending out the concealer, and I'm really being careful to do so because I don't want to disturb the brow. So as you'll notice, I am, raising up her brow, just above her brow. I'm raising that area up to be clean and using the tip of the sponge to really be clean and precise as we blend out this concealer because we want this brow to be nice and sharp. We lost a little bit of that brow tail, so I'm just going to fill that area in. Going back with the pencil to fill that in, just a little bit of cleanup. Next, using the Warrior palette from Juvia's Place, I'm going to pick up the lightest matte shade in the palette, and I'm going to use this to set the concealer. So I'm using a fluffy blending brush, and I'm just pressing that right over the concealer. Taking the Maybelline Fit Me pressed powder in shade 355, we're going to use this as the transition shade, and I'm just going to use this to build up her crease. And I've used this technique before. I've used this before in my full face of Maybelline makeup video, and this closely matches the skin tone, so it does offer a very warm transition. So we're just going to again fill this into her crease and just kind of build this up. Going back to the Warrior palette, I'm going to pick up that warm brown shade, and I'm going to place that on top of the Maybelline shade. Again, we're just building up the crease and just want this to be nice and warm and something natural that's close to her skin tone. Now we're going to pick up the darkest shade in the palette, and we're going to use that to start building the outer third of her eye. So we're just going to deepen up the outer third of the eye with that shade. Using an angled blending brush, I'm just blending out this darker shade into that warm brown shade in the crease, just blending everything together. And I'm going to I'm dipping back into that golden shade to just again build this up and blend everything together seamlessly. Now I'm going to dip into this gold shimmer shade from the palette, and I'm picking this up on a wet small shader brush, and I'm going to lay this on her lid. I am not using a typical cut crease method, so I'm not laying down concealer first. This particular shadow is so creamy, and as you can see, very pigmented, that I don't need to lay a concealer on a wet brush. It just slides, it glides on like a dream. I mean, it applies like a dream on a wet brush. So I'm able to just apply this precisely where I want it. Now I'm just going back in with the darker shade just to blend these two together so we have a nice gradient transition between the gold and the dark. Next, I'm going to grab the Nubian palette because I want the crease to be a little bit deeper. So I'm going to pick up this brown shade, and I'm going to pick this up on a just a regular blending brush. And I want to place this in the crease, and then I'll go in and blend it out just because I want a little bit more depth in her crease. Taking the Sex Kitten liner from Tarte, I'm just going to lightly line the top lash line and just do a very small wing. So she has deep set eyes, but she also has small eyes, and I don't want to overpower her eye by giving her such a dramatic wing or any kind of dramatic liner on her top lid, because I do not want to take away from the gold. Let's give her lashes a bit of a lift. So I'm using this mascara from Thrive Cosmetics, and I'm just, prepping her lashes, giving them a little lift, and, preparing her to add the falsies. Now let's add some lashes. I don't know what these lashes are. I don't know the style or even the brand. These were some lashes that she already had. So I had to give these lashes a little snip because they were way too long for her eye. So, you know, I applied them, realized they were too long, and then had to go back and cut and reapply. So this is the reapplication of her lashes, but they are really pretty, very bold, very fluffy, nice selection, Jazz. So I'm taking a cotton cloth and I've sort of soaked the cloth with the Thayer's toner, witch hazel toner, and I'm using this to prep her skin. So I want her skin to be nice and clean, and you know, the toner, in addition to helping to even out her skin tone, it also, you know, cleanses, you know, the surface of the skin. So now I'm taking the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip primer and I'm applying the primer to her face in preparation for applying foundation. Using the Maybelline Fit Me Dewy and Smooth foundation in shade 355, and I applied it onto a wet elf sponge, and I am just going to go ahead now and blend out this foundation on her skin. I can't say enough how much I love these sponges. I mean, I've had the white ones for a while, but I was in, I think Walmart, I think it was, and I saw these pink ones, and I'm like, you know, let me try a different elf sponge, and these sponges are amazing. So I'm taking a stiff foundation brush and I'm just going over and sculpting the top of her brow, just defining that shape with this brush. And I like using this particular brush because it is stiff. It's a more dense, flat foundation brush, so I can be much more precise with this brush. And this is a Farrah brush. I believe it's a Farrah foundation brush. Going back in with the Colourpop Pretty Fresh Concealer in that dark 153C shade. And I'm going to apply this to her highlight area. So under the eyes, on her forehead, just a little between the brow, a little down the bridge of her nose, in her smile lines, and across her top lip. And I am going to apply a little to her chin. After letting the concealer dry down a bit, let's go ahead and blend it out. Now, what I will say about this Colourpop concealer, it moves like a dream. You give it about a good 30 seconds to let it dry, and it does what it needs to do. So I am a huge fan of the Colourpop concealers. Now let's go in and set this concealer, and I'm using my holy grail, the Laura Mercier loose setting powder, and this is in the shade medium deep, and we're going to just set all of the areas that have concealer. Going back into the Maybelline Fit Me Press Powder in shade 355, I'm using the Couture Culture powder brush and I'm pressing this into the skin. This is one of my favorite brushes, if not my absolute favorite brush. It just provides a flawless finish when pressing in powder. I mean, look at Jazz's face. I mean, that airbrush finish is, oh my God, it's everything. So I'm just pressing the powder into all the areas that don't have any other powder. So we're gonna, do her neck, her ears, every other place that needs to be set. Now I dipped into the Black Radiance press powder, and this is in the shade Rich Mahogany, and I'm using this to go ahead and contour her face. So I'm using a Farrah contour brush, and I'm first pressing it into the areas where I want the powder to go, and then I'm going to buff it out. I'm going to slowly buff it out, and I'm sculpting under her chin as well, just really defining that beautiful face shape. Using the same powder on a angled brush, I'm going to stamp out her nose contour, and then I'm going to blend it out. Using another Black Radiance press powder, and this is in the shade Cafe, I'm going to go ahead and grab my BH Cosmetics buffing brush, and this is her bronzer shade. So I'm going to buff this bronzer slightly on top of the contour shade Rich Mahogany, and just to nicely blend those two together to give her a nice sun-kissed look and to further define the shape of her face. So my apologies, you guys. Somewhere in the recording, the camera didn't pick up the application of her blush, setting spray, and highlight. So I did use a blush from Maybelline, used a highlight from Milani, and I set her face using the Maybelline Lasting Fix. And so with the lip, I'm using a lip pencil from Colourpop, and I'm just defining her lips, so lining her lips. She wanted a sort of a pinky look, not too pink, not too red, not too burgundy. Those were her words. And so I found something right in the middle. All right, now I'm applying this cream lipstick from Colourpop, and it's in the shade Playing Games, and I'm just filling in the lip with this lipstick. Going in on top with this liquid lip from Colourpop. It's actually from the Colourpop and Bretman Rock collab, and it's in the shade She Cute, and I'm just topping that on top just to add a little definition to the lips. And the finishing touch is the Fenty Gloss Bomb in the shade Hot Chocolate. And we're using this to just give her that sassy, sexy finish to her lips. So here I'm doing a little bit of cleanup where I colored outside of the lines. So I'm just dabbing on this concealer, blending it out around the corners. And then I'm going to grab my powder brush and I'm going to press some powder over that concealer because I do want to set that concealer. And then I'll spritz, give her a little spritz of setting spray. And then I'll use the brush to blend the setting, to press in the setting spray, just because I want to keep her with a flawless finish. And voila, she's so beautiful. Go ahead, Jazz.